Welcome to Metamorphosis with Dr. Tassel Faith. In the next hour, you will embark on a journey to awaken your inner identity, remember the truth of who you are, and come home to yourself. Enter your transformative chrysalis, experience the fundamental change you need, and emerge a leader for your own life and for the planet. Align with your spirit and become the being you were always meant to be. Leap fearlessly into the powerful change awaiting you. Transform your world naturally and supernaturally. Lead with your magic, trust the unseen, experience quantum leaps. Metamorphosis begins now.
Hello and welcome to the Metamorphosis Show. I am Dr. Tassel Faith, and you are listening to the Metamorphosis Show on the Transformation Network. Please stay with us through the next hour and let us assist you in experiencing your own personal metamorphosis. And it's my absolute delight and honor to welcome just an amazing human spirit being, Mr. Blake Bauer, as our honored guest today. Blake is the author of the international bestselling book, You Were Not Born to Suffer. Wonderful to hear that. Praise the Lord. Blake has helped thousands of people around the world who could not find lasting solutions from conventional medicine, psychiatry, or religion. Blake has an extensive background in psychology, alternative medicine, nutrition, traditional healing, mindfulness, meditation, and qigong. Based on both his personal experience overcoming deep suffering, addiction, and adversity, as well as his professional work with tens of thousands of people worldwide, his teachings integrate what he has found to be the most effective approaches to optimal mental, emotional, and physical health. Wow, sounds amazing, Blake. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Tassel. It's nice to meet you.
Yes. I'm just thrilled to talk with you. I was so touched by your email address, which is unconditional self-love. Is it more than that?
No, that's the website and the email address.
Okay, great. Unconditional self-love. I was just wondering, maybe we could start by talking about your journey into unconditional self-love.
Well, that is obviously a very loaded question. I think the overarching theme is that, like most people, I never learned how to love myself or treat myself well as a child growing up. And that was because my environment, the people I was raised around, had no idea how to love themselves and didn't have a very healthy relationship to themselves. And it's not a theme that we're really taught in school or in our kind of social conditioning, as we call it. And so as a result, as a young man, I had a really self-destructive relationship to myself with my thoughts and my emotions and my habits and behaviors. And at a young age, I got addicted to drugs and alcohol as my way of numbing my repressed emotions and numbing my negative thought patterns. And I was just doing my best to survive and fit in and feel better than I felt as a young person instinctually. And I continued down those self-destructive paths to the point where I was arrested a number of times for drug possession and was abusing drugs pretty badly and alcohol pretty badly and selling drugs. I was the co-captain of the varsity football team in high school with two of my best friends with offers to play college football. And one night I got a very bad DUI on a lot of different drugs and alcohol. I was driving home in the middle of the night and I got to a freight train in the middle of the night and was delirious and pulled up to the guardrail right in front of the tracks, put my car in park and put my head back and fell asleep as the train was passing, and woke up to police knocking on the window. And I was arrested. I got a very bad DUI, got kicked off the football team, lost my offers to play college football. And at 18, I then spiraled into a very dark depression and became suicidal and was very lost and had no idea what to do with my pain or what to do with my life. And that was my breaking point, me hitting my rock bottom, the beginning of what we call the dark night of our soul. And then that's what propelled me forward into this heal or die state of mind, where I instinctually went on a quest to figure out how to love myself, because that's what I needed to heal and figure out my purpose in life. And we can go deeper into that, but that's how it began.
Oh my goodness. Your story just brings tears to my eyes. Just what a story. Just deep honoring, Blake, of that path and how much you experienced at such a young age. That must have been just devastating, to lose those opportunities and to spiral down into that dark night of the soul. And I know for so many of us on this ascension path, we can relate to those rock bottom moments that our human would not choose, but that serve as tremendous catalyst to our spiritual growth. And it looks like you hit your rock bottom and then over time worked your way into your own self-love and expansion as a being. And just what a story, just very beautiful story. Oh my goodness, at such a young age. Wow.
Yeah, thank you. And those are obviously the cliff notes. And I got lucky at a young age in the sense that when I realized I was suffering and that I needed to heal, I took responsibility for myself and felt like I was sick. I felt like there was something wrong with me, and I didn't go into a state of blame.
Yeah.
But the truth was that I also grew up around a lot of trauma and toxicity.
Yeah.
And so I had just experienced a lot of mental and emotional pain growing up that I was not conscious of. And so I feel blessed that I didn't, fall into a victim state of consciousness at a young age and feel sorry for myself and blame my upbringing or my circumstances. And I think I had a lot of pride. I had a big ego. And so I wanted to respect myself. And, that's something we can talk more about, because in the end, I think we all just want to have the type of love for ourselves that leads to self-respect. And so I learned to take responsibility for my pain in a way that led to a life and a way of being where I could look in the mirror and love and respect the person looking back. And so, I'd love to help your listeners understand how to get to more of that in themselves, as much as we can in the time. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. And just several points that you just made, I would love to highlight because I think they're so important. In my training for my doctorate degree, one of the questions that always stuck with me was, how does this person's behavior make sense given their context? And you brought up that because of the environment you were living in and the wounded folks that took care of you, you experienced certain experiences that were traumatic and wounding. And I love how you explained it without blame, not blaming our family members, because everyone usually is just doing the best they can and have unhealed wounds. And so just a beautiful neutrality to understanding what our caregivers experienced. And then also not pathologizing yourself either, just understanding that your behavior, all of our behaviors usually are just responses to our environments, which often are the best response we can make at that time until we have further tools. So I just love your whole approach and how it sounds like you were able to adopt that approach at such an early age. That I find that really profound. Do you have a sense of how you were able to tap into that type of orientation at such a young age? Because it's very different from the mainstream orientation that might be blaming and pathologizing and the victimhood, as you expressed. How did you do that?
Yeah, I think, like I said to you, I think at first it started out of pride and ego. I saw myself following in the footsteps of people in my life who had sabotaged their families, their businesses, all the good things in their life. And I looked and I thought, I don't want to end up like that. And I'm following in their footsteps because genetically it was baked into me and environmentally it was baked into me. And so I saw myself repeating patterns. And then the pain was so great and so deep that I felt that for me it was heal or die, figure out how to be free, figure out my purpose or die. So the suffering was that bad at a young age. And I had already burnt the candle at every end at a young age. I'd, done what I wanted. I had, not followed any of the rules. I had kind of indulged anything and everything I wanted to indulge. So I didn't feel like I was missing out. And so at 18, the only thing that mattered to me was healing my pain and figuring out what the purpose of my life was. So I think it was twofold. It was this desire for self-respect, this drive for self-respect. And then I do think in terms of destiny and life purpose. And I think that there are things that happen in our life that we set in motion and are set in motion by circumstances that are meant to be. And then we have the opportunity to choose. It's like, do you choose to accept your karma and your mission and take responsibility and then make the most of it, kind of, play your hand and make it a winning hand? Or do you feel sorry for yourself? And over time, what I realize is that we get a choice every day. Do we want to feel sorry for ourselves or do we want to respect ourselves? And if you want to respect yourself, we have to learn how to take full responsibility for everything we think and feel and say and do and how we say it and how we do it. Or we can waste our precious time and energy pointing the finger at everybody else. Meanwhile, you live in shame and you're full of regret and you're not enjoying your life and you're not achieving your potential. So we have to make that choice. And that choice starts the moment we wake up every day. And we're presented with that choice, I think, literally every minute of every day. So
beautiful. I couldn't agree more. And I'm curious how you would land on what I'm going to share. But my definition of success is simply showing up the best you can every day in your own alignment. And no matter what is currently manifesting in your external reality, it might not be perfect, it might not be what you have dreamed of, but just that you are showing up. To me, that is success. And then over time, we usually see our external reality shifting to as our internal reality shifts. But to get a bit away from this external measure of success and just that, am I showing up? Am I being in my inner truth? Am I in alignment? Am I taking responsibility? And that to me is success.
100%. Yeah. For me, the other term that I've kind of mentioned a few times is self-respect.
Yes.
Right? Because it doesn't matter what it looks like from the outside. What matters is, when you're alone with yourself, when you go to bed at night and you close your eyes, or you're looking in your eyes in the mirror when you're getting ready in the morning, or you're washing up at night, do you respect, who you've been today, how you've been today? And I think that comes back to what you said, which is showing up, and being, even if it's messy. Like kind of what you were referring to is like, that's part of self-acceptance, and self-love is accepting that, perfection is an illusion. We are messy creatures. We all make mistakes, but it's what we do with it that matters.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. I love that you brought that up. I think so many of us can really suffer from perfectionism and so much self-criticism, and our society really, consumer wise is built upon that. Like all the advertisements for how you could be better in certain ways, whether it's physically or in other ways. But I so agree with that. And I love that you use that term messy. I use that a lot, that, our lives can be really messy, and that's okay. And so much of this is unlearning what we were taught, I would say, in traditional school, where we were taught to try to make things perfect and get a 100, and that's success. And the real world and our spirit-led journey in these incarnative vessels is not like that at all, right?
No, not at all. I recently at a retreat, this metaphor popped out of my mouth that for me makes so much sense. We look to nature a lot, right, for spiritual metaphors. And if you think about a tree, when it's letting go of its leaves, right, it's growing, it's going through a cycle of change, it's letting go of the last season. The leaves don't fall in a neat pile, right? The leaves just fall all over the place and they get blown around. It's not like all the leaves are just stacked perfectly and it's like, here's the stuff I'm letting go of and it's in a perfect pile.
Right.
Nature doesn't operate that way, and we are 100% part of nature. And so, the sooner we can just take a deep breath and let go a little bit and stop trying to control everyone and everything and how everybody perceives us, the less we're going to suffer today, which is really important.
Yes, yes, beautiful metaphor. And I'm curious how you feel about this. I'm very drawn to shamanism, and one of the terms in shamanism is to be the hollow bone, to be really just this hollow vessel for one's higher self, for spirit to embody and to be spirit driven. And in that sense, for the human to really surrender to that higher calling, to that higher consciousness. And this usually means that we don't really know exactly sort of what is coming up, or we're not really controlling the what's happening. Life is flowing through us. And again, this is so different from how we've been taught in our Western society. And it can be really uncomfortable, particularly in the beginning of this way of life. And I'm just wondering how that resonates with you, and how you move through any discomfort around that.
Well, it 100% resonates with me. And I would love to bridge the gap for people practically on what that really means, because so much of this process has to do with controlling our thoughts and emotions.
Yeah.
Right. And so a couple of the things that block the flow of energy or life or the universe from flowing through us are all the repressed emotions and experiences that we haven't processed, right? So we can't become that clear vessel, or in Qigong theory that I teach, we talk about becoming a clear channel between heaven and earth, which means we have to cleanse the body or the subconscious mind of all the trauma and all the repressed emotions that are stuck in there. And so for a lot of people, that's their entire life, 20, 30, 40, 50 years of needs, emotions, and dreams that are repressed and stuck in the body. And so one of the biggest parts of learning to love ourselves practically in the present, so we can become this clear channel, is that we don't stop the flow of life through us anymore, which means we stop rejecting who we are. We stop rejecting what we feel. We stop rejecting what we need. We stop rejecting what we want, and we start giving it a voice every day in every situation, so that the truth inside of us, the love and the light and even the pain inside of us, can flow freely out instead of getting stuck in and making us sick and miserable like it does. So,
Yes.
yeah.
I'm so glad you brought that up. Yes, great bridge there. And I'm curious because I definitely went through, I mean, I think I'm still going through it. I don't think it ends, but a huge process of feeling everything that had been really repressed for most of my life. And I'm just curious for you, at what did that start when you were in your teens that you were doing that process?
When I was 18 and I was suicidal and in
Yeah.
such a dark place, that's where it began.
Yeah.
Because that's when I stopped numbing out. Because prior, right, we all find ways to numb. There's alcohol, there's
Yeah.
drugs, there's smoking, there's food. These
Right.
are the main ones. But then we use social media, we use the internet, we use shopping, we use work.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of addictions that keep us numbing out. So for
Yes.
me, over the last 2+ decades, it's
Yeah.
been a daily practice of becoming intimate with my
Yeah.
own feelings, my own needs, my own desires, my instinct, my intuition. And then basically the more you do it every day, the better you get at it, just like riding a bike or driving a car
Yep.
until you trust yourself finally, and you don't doubt your feelings, you don't doubt your needs, you don't doubt your calling. So for me, it's been like any tool or any the mastery over any kind of practice. It's been a day in and day out, year after year, decade after decade, getting better at it. Um,
Yes. Oh my
so
gosh. Yeah, I so deeply resonate with everything you're sharing, Blake. I feel we're on very similar paths. Um, and what strikes me in part is when you said that there is no magic pill. There is no, oh, I'll just read this book or I'll just take this course with this guru and then, my suffering will be resolved. I just love how you articulated that it's just a daily practice of, and I love how you said of becoming intimate with oneself. And I love the word honor. And what I often talk about with clients is this blanket, ubiquitous, radical honoring of everything that comes up. The emotions, the dreams, one's values, one's preferences, just this complete honoring of self, which really feels like often the opposite of what the mainstream programming was for us starting as kids, where we were really taught to turn away from ourselves, to abandon ourselves, to listen to the dictates of others, and really in a way become a hollow shell, but not in this more positive way of spirit embodying us, but more a hollow shell for the mainstream matrix to embody us.
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
we learn to compromise. You use the word abandon,
Yeah.
betray, reject who we are, what we
Yes.
feel, what we need, what we want to survive and to get love, because most of us have just experienced this conditional love from
Yes.
our parents, from our environment, because this is what's being passed down from generation to generation, because that's all we've known. And so to me, the evolution of our biology and our genetics and the evolution of human consciousness is the conversation of how do I learn to love myself unconditionally. And with what you mentioned with your clients, I like to ask this question: if you valued yourself 100% today in every situation and relationship, what would you say and what would you do? And then I like to encourage people, well, now do that, say that, because that puts, it's like, what would Jesus do? Well, here's a healthier form of that question. If you were to value yourself 100% today, what would you say and what would you do? Now go say that and go do that, but obviously with love and with kindness.
I love that so much, Blake. I use something very similar. I say, what would your higher self do? What would your highest consciousness do? And
Beautiful.
I love what you said as well. And I think what we're also getting at when you said, okay, let's identify that And then let's do that. And what are the blocks? What are the resistances to doing that? And often it's about, I'm worried I'm going to displease someone. I'm worried I won't be accepted. I'm worried I won't be liked. And one of my favorite books is, it's by a Japanese author. It's called The Courage to Be Disliked. And I often talk about that our lives are just between us and spirit. That's it. Whatever any human thinks of us, it's really not even our business. Our life is just between us and spirit. And to let go of possibly being disliked, possibly being judged, but to come back to what is in alignment for me. And I also loved how you talked about mental health. I think as we move further into the Aquarian age, into this more awakened age that we're coming into, to me, it feels like the metric for mental health could simply be the degree of self-love that we are able to hold. That's it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's so simple, right?
Yeah. And then what most of us struggle with is how, right? And that's what I've spent the last 20 plus years trying to figure out is how, and then teaching it to other people as I go, because a lot of people will say, go love yourself, or you should love yourself. But that doesn't answer the question, which is the how do I actually do it?
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you said that, because I talk about the same thing, that what does it actually mean? And how do we love ourselves? We all can understand, yeah, it seems like a good idea to love myself. But what does that actually mean? What does that look like in my daily life? And I would just love to ask you, for you, Blake, and the beautiful people you work with, what does that, how can we operationalize self-love?
Well, I have outlined what I think are kind of 6 universal laws that basically represent the how you do this. So I'll ramble them off, and then we can dive into whatever you want.
Love it.
The first one is express ourselves honestly and kindly. And obviously, it makes sense to be honest, but the kind part is super important, because often when we're trying to honor ourselves and express ourselves, we don't have the language or the tools to do it in a healthy way. And we end up hurting and pushing away people that we care about. And so the secret is to be honest and kind using what's been coined as nonviolent communication. So saying things like, I feel, I need, I want, instead of you're such a, or F off, which is code for I feel hurt, or I feel angry, or I need some space right now, but we've never learned that language. Yeah. So express ourselves honestly and kindly is one. 2 is act in integrity. So often we feel one thing and need something, but we do the opposite. So you can't love yourself if you're feeling something and needing something, but you do the opposite. That's hurting yourself. So the third one is to take time and space for ourselves regularly. A lot of us are overscheduled, and we don't have space in our day or our weekly schedule to breathe. And we all need time and space just to move at our own natural pace, to listen to our body, to listen to our deeper self. The fourth key practice is learning to how to take care of your mind. So that obviously includes meditation. And I like to talk about practices that help us cultivate what I think is a superpower, which is that we can actually choose our thoughts and guide our thoughts, even though we often feel like victims of our mind. The fifth key is to value your time and energy, which has to do with boundaries, not giving time and energy to people that are not healthy for you or that are toxic, and also not wasting time and energy blaming and complaining instead of taking responsibility in the present. And then the last key habit is taking care of your body. And that has to do with everything from what you eat and drink to the lotion you put on your body to the types of shampoo you use and toothpaste and laundry detergent, because so many of these home cleaning supplies and body care products are full of toxins that wreak havoc in our nervous system and our cells. and then we feel sick. And so you can be doing all the right things, but you're poisoning yourself with your laundry detergent and your deodorant, and you don't even realize it. So those are kind of the 6 main points I like to draw out for people.
I love that so much. It's so great just to have some number of points to sort of frame a concept like self-love. That's beautiful. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, I would love to just discuss more about these wonderful 6 points that Blake has shared. Hello, and we are back on the Metamorphosis Show on the Transformation Network. I'm Dr. Tassel Faith, and we are just with an amazing guest, Blake Bauer. And before we continue on this fascinating discussion, Blake, I wanted to ask you, where can our listeners find more information about you and your work?
Well, my website is unconditional-selflove.com. And then I'm on all the social media platforms. So anywhere, people like to find their content, you can find me.
Wonderful. And do you have any upcoming events or anything that you'd like to share?
I do. I have a retreat at the end of January in the mountains in Colorado. It's called Deep Self-Love. It's a weekend of self-love, meditation, and Qigong. And it's on a 650-acre Buddhist retreat. And that's the last weekend in January. And then the last weekend in March, I also have another weekend coming up similar to that.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
They
Oh my
are.
goodness.
They are very
Wow.
special. It's very beautiful. The venue is amazing, and your cell phone doesn't work, and there are lots of deer and stars, and it's beautiful.
Oh, that sounds so amazing. I would love to come myself. Sounds amazing. And I hope everyone listening will come too. Sounds so great. Thank you so much, Blake, for sharing that.
Thank you.
So Blake has outlined these 6 steps of actually putting self-love into practice. And maybe I can ask you, I'm really curious, is there one that's the most challenging for you to stick with?
No, they're all equally challenging for me. Because I think that no matter how good I do in this moment or today or in this situation, that I'm always tested by the next situation. And, I'm someone who teaches this to thousands of people, and it's been my biggest wound and my biggest lesson in my life. And so it's not like we ever arrive at this place where we don't have to then also love ourselves in the next moment or the next day. So I'm always tested, and they're always a challenge because, people are always going to want things from you, and people are always going to pull at you, and people will mistreat you or speak insensitively to you. So you're always going to be tested. I find I'm always tested no matter how masterful I get. Or how well I do today. And so that goes back to how we began with the messiness of life. It's not like you reach some point and then everything's perfect and your house and your life looks like a Zen, monastery, because it often just doesn't happen that way. And so I like to kind of cut through those illusions that a lot of people have, which is why a lot of the great teachers talk about, before enlightenment, you do your laundry. After enlightenment, you do your laundry.
Yes,
like you go back to just being a human and dealing with other humans who are also messy. So that's why we have to get good at this, because we're not the only messy ones. Everybody else is too. And everybody's trying to figure this out, even if they don't know they're trying to figure this out.
Yes. I love that so much. I think one of the phrases, chop, carry wood, or chop wood, carry water.
Totally.
Before enlightenment, after enlightenment.
That's exactly the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And I love what you're saying. And I know for myself and the people I work with, there's these 2 simultaneous paths that we seem to be on. We're spirit beings, and we understand that every person we interact with is our teacher in one way or the other. And it might be a really easy lesson, a really, oh, this is great. Or it might be a more challenging lesson, but that all of life really is our teacher and our expander. And so we know that from the spiritual perspective. And then at the same time, we are humans too. And those human emotions come up. And so it's just this interesting balance of, yes, it's all good. It's all happening for me. It's all for my soul's eternal enlightenment. And that's great. And at the same time, oh my gosh, this is challenging and this is painful or this is great. And just that braiding of both of those paths simultaneously is really intense sometimes.
It is very intense. I think for me, my saving grace since the beginning of my journey has been meditation. And the reason why I'm saying that is because that's where you become so intimate with how your mind and your body react in the present to stress and to unconsciousness and to darkness and to challenges, because basically kind of the two themes you're bringing up, there's this concept there, which is really important to understand, is that we get to choose how we think about everything. We get to choose how we think about any situation. And then how you choose to think about the situation either keeps you trapped or sets you free. So the more present you are to your breathing and to your thoughts as they arise, which meditation is the key to having that type of present time consciousness. So when someone's in your face and they scream at you or they abuse you or you get into an accident or something perceived as negative or challenging happens, you then are aware of, well, where do they go? And does that thinking serve you? So the more present you are, the more you can say, you know what, I get to choose how I think about this situation, which will either make the situation worse or make it better immediately. And so again, meditation to me is that bridge of how you merge the mental and emotional challenges with these kind of higher ideas, is that I get to choose my perspective. And if I can be really present, I can choose the mindset that empowers me and leads to self-respect in this challenging situation, instead of creating a mess and then trying to go light some incense and some sage after I've like broken everything or punched someone in the face, or, so it's kind of an extreme example, but this is how we, practice what we're talking about.
I love that so much. Yes. Yes. Really becoming masterful with our consciousness. And of course, I love that you brought up meditation and really nurturing this inner place of calm that does exist within all of us. That is our soul's seat, our God self, that remains peaceful and impervious to what's happening in the 3D reality, no matter what. And it really is that time alone in meditation, or even just walking in nature,